Hey everybody, welcome here today. I've got a very special pair of guests. Guest one is Evan and guest two is Xavier. Say what's up, guys.
How you guys doing?
What's up, Robbie?
Hey, how's it going? So I'm really excited to have these two on because Evan and Xavier were actually the first two implementation workshop attendees ever for us. And that was it was earlier this year, and I really thought it might help the group to understand what they might be able to expect from not just the short-term benefits but from also the long-term benefits. And you guys have certainly experienced both. And so I wanted to just quickly ask you guys a few questions today. So why don't we get started by having you tell the group who you are and who you serve, and then we can jump right into it.
Sure, I'll start. Evan Shapiro here. So Xavier and I are business partners, and we have a company called MedSpaAdvertising.com. We picked that name because it kind of helps speak for itself a little bit in our niche. We obviously serve the medical spa niche. We are also serving some dermatologists and plastic surgeons who offer non-surgical aesthetics treatments as well, which kind of fits into that category. And yeah, we have a system that delivers them patients on demand.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, Evan really summed it all up with that one.
Yeah. Well, so maybe you can take the next one here, Xavier. Tell us when you first reached out and you said, yeah, Rob and Ryan, I want to come down to your office for a day, learn your guys' systems and processes. Like, tell us where you guys were at that time. So if you could sort of rewind the tape and think back to where you were. Where were you at with your business? What were you guys struggling with? What did you already have nailed? Like that kind of thing.
Definitely, yeah. So, we came to your workshop in about February, and I think that Evan and I started this about October. So we've been doing it for a few months. We only had two clients. One had one location, but was a really well-known plastic surgeon, and another had four locations, and he was on the East Coast. So, the sales side was definitely way slower than I thought it would be because I had some prior successes. I thought I'd just be able to bank off that and say, hey, I did this, this, and this. Let me help you with your med spa. And so sales side was definitely harder than I thought, but we still had a couple of clients. We were sort of struggling with the results. A big thing was the follow-up process. With the first famous plastic surgeon, his, office was very hectic. So I could understand why he didn't have a great follow-up process. But when we had this other client, they had two dedicated sales girls to each location. So they had 8 dedicated sales girls. So I thought the follow-up would be a no-brainer. But, their response time initially was slow. They only did 1 to 2 follow-up calls. So they just weren't seeing a conversion. So, both clients were sort of complaining about that. And, we just went to Billie Jean's meetup, which was around January-ish. Maybe March, maybe February. And, Evan's like, hey, we got to go have dinner with Rob. He's, the Scipio doing 100K a month. And I'm like, for sure. And then unfortunately we didn't get to meet up that night. And then Evan had spoken to you and, you had said, hey, I'm going to make an offer that you can't refuse. You come down to San Diego and we'll teach it. And, I just for the Scipio stuff alone, I didn't realize all the value that we're going to get. I knew we were going to get some, outside of the Scipio, but we really just came for the Scipio initially, and then, the rest was just such a huge bonus. So, I knew it was a no-brainer straight away. I didn't question. I mean, Evan's, the biggest believer in you back then before you were, crushing it like you are now. So it was a no-brainer for us. But, so we're still early on, and things were definitely slower than I thought they would be, right? When everyone starts their agency, you have expectations that you're going to get 10 clients in a week and, all that. The way anything works, it's always slower than you expect, and then it's faster than you expect. So we're definitely in that slower than expected. And not only that, just the results we're getting for our clients weren't where they needed to be, where we're going to have these clients for years and years, So number one, we had that problem of getting clients, and the number two, we're seeing that issue of keeping clients.
Yeah. And go ahead. Sorry, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to ask, maybe you can handle this one, Evan. I remember you were getting good results for your clients, but it wasn't all sticking together. So what was the number one biggest challenge that you were facing in either one of those sides, either client retention or client acquisition?
Yeah, I'll speak to the client acquisition piece, and Xavier can probably talk a little about client acquisition. So I think the biggest problem, and he touched on it already, I'm sure probably everyone who's going to watch this video is going to be like, ding, me too, is not necessarily generating the leads for your clients, right? Like, of course, sometimes we set a campaign live and we're like, we got to tweak it and get that right. But more times than not, like, we were delivering leads at a pretty good cost, and it was the practice or, the client themselves having good follow-up. And it was something we ran into with our first few clients as we talked to other people in the space. It literally seems to be probably the biggest problem for people on our side of the table, right? And then they blame the leads are bad.
They blame you.
They blame us. The leads are shit. Like, what do you mean I have to follow up within 5 minutes? Like, they think that sounds crazy. And obviously, we have statistics and studies to back that up, which helps. But at the end of the day, you're then dealing with people at the front desk, and you're kind of like telling them what to do, right? And so there's that little bit of awkward that you have to deal with. And then you have to go back to the owner and tell them the front desk person's not following up, and the front desk person gets fired, which actually did happen one time.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was like a huge problem. And I know you and I spoke about it, multiple times before we came down to San Diego. And that was, as Xavier said, like sort of like one of the main caveats to us coming down and learning from you guys was like, hey, Robb and his team really figured out the golden cog and how to, implement something through text message, which makes a ton of sense to help alleviate the problem of the practice not following up fast enough. And then also the problem today of people not even answering their phone because they're screening calls and don't want to answer calls from their cell phone anymore, and everyone's texting. So
for sure.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
So it does. And what's really interesting is you're talking about this now, and you guys are in the med spa niche and I'm in the fitness niche, yet humans are humans. And right now, people with cell phones are people with cell phones. And so this is kind of like not just an industry thing. It might be plus or minus a few percentage points depending on the industry you're in. But I am like deathly serious with people when I talk about how important that step is, like the follow-up and the appointment booking and the text messaging, because that's like a main line to people now. It's human to human. It's not B2B or B2C or industry vertical based. It's, it's just like the way that people communicate now, right? So, all right, so let me just recap real quick. So when you came to us, you were getting good results from the ad side, right? You were generating tons of leads on the ad side for your clients. Your clients were getting the leads. They were not following up with the leads. They were not doing it in a timely fashion. They were blaming everyone but themselves. So that's you, the ads, the prospects, like whatever, right? Super common problem. And then that sort of inspired you to come to the workshop with us, right? So then explain to people what the experience of being at the workshop was like in the context of solving those things.
Do you want to?
Yeah, just sort of like it was everything that we had hoped for and more. On day one, so we did, pretty much 2 full days together, which was awesome. On day one, we sort of tackled some of the early problems. Like number one, you got a niche down. We're saying at the time we were also promoting a skincare line that the campaign was just going horrible, and you're just like, if it's sort of like a med spa, or sort of like it is, it's not. So you got to really niche down.
Yeah, our company name was Med Spa Advertising, but we were still like, yeah, well, should we take this client on? And like, so yeah.
You were cheating on your clients.
I know, we wanted that easy revenue. So I was sort of going through that, and then Ryan was sort of delved into the Scipio, and Haplin sort of walked us through. So that was fantastic. Really, day one, getting your head wrapped around Scipio and how to use it, because it's one thing. Anyone can sign up for Scipio, right? You don't have to go to your thing, but to know how to actually effectively use it is completely different, right? It's, anyone can drive a car, but if you don't have lessons and never know, you're probably going to crash or not even get started. So it's really, I think, again, we could have signed up for Scipio, but would have we gotten anywhere close to the same results? No. And then after we learned Scipio, day 2 was really about how do we scale our agency, because we didn't come again, the main thing was Scipio and how do we, retain clients and get them results. But that was part of a bigger problem. How do we grow our agency and scale it, which is sort of really what we focus on day 2, which was a lot of your systems and processes that we're still, we're only starting to implement them today, and we can already see the results. We hired our first employee a couple of weeks ago. So the past couple of weeks have just been training him. Ryan went through a lot of the sales stuff with me, which was, again, just hugely transformative in my own sales skills. I mean, I wasn't, horrible at sales before, but definitely it's just a completely different strategy. It's really, you got to get to the, I won't give it away at all, but it was really getting to the real reason they're buying, right? Like the real reason they're buying. On your surface, it's like, oh, they're paying me because they want more customers, because they want more patients. that's just really a surface level reason. It's okay, but why do they want more patients? Why do they want more customers? And really drilling down to that with the lead and just converting that. I mean, I mentioned this in a video I posted in the group, but last week we actually had to pause the funnel because we got too many clients too quickly, and we wanted to make sure that we deliver while we train, this new employee and whatnot. So we paused the funnel, but I got like 5 or 6 schedules from the funnel, and from the 4 that I spoke to, a couple I just didn't get on the phone with. The 4 that I spoke to, we closed, and 2 of them had actually initially said no, that the price wasn't right, the timing wasn't right, this or that wasn't right. And then using some of the things that Ryan taught me to reshape the conversation, like, okay, if it's not right today, what are you going to be doing that you're going to be able to afford us? If it's not right now, won't you need us more than ever to get there? And, just a couple of questions like that just completely reshaped it to, one of them because I just thought the call was done at that point. So I'm like, I'll just have a little fun, talk with them a little bit. And they're just like, okay, I guess we'll give it a shot. And okay, do you want my credit card now? Like, it was, just something that I never would have thought would be possible to go from a hard no to a yes on that same phone call was, just something really incredible. So, I mean, that alone is just, it's worth the price tag.
Yeah, what's interesting is this works both ways, right? With the people that you talk to who could be clients of yours for your agency or your business. And it also works for people who are considering a consumer product or service like a gym membership or a med spa treatment or something like that. Usually their biggest objection or excuse is also the best reason to get started. And
right.
We spent a lot of time. We spent like an hour on that one, I think, at the workshop. And I'm fine sharing that one because that sentence sums it up, but it's very nuanced and very deep. You have to really like understand sort of the veil behind the veil to really nail it. And that one takes a little while to master, but you've been using it and closing people with it like in an ethical and good way. So like because you guys help them. Once they get started, you guys help them.
So you just broke up for a second. What was that?
I was just saying, I mean, you guys are using it for good. Some people use it for, unethical reasons. They try to like con people into things. But it's so powerful when you understand that concept, because if you get good results for your clients like we do and like you guys do in 30 days or less, I mean, it's the best reason to get started. The only reason why they wouldn't do it is because they have no idea that you guys are the good guys yet. Exactly. Once they do, they will, right? But
exactly.
But that's something that you can leverage in the conversation to turn a bad thing into a good thing. And then once they get started with you guys, all those worries get flushed down the drain because they start getting results immediately. So
that's why I think the funnel that you were able to provide us to get clients for ourselves was so important, because before I was doing every you name a strategy, I was doing it: email, LinkedIn.
Standing on the street corner in a chicken costume.
Yeah, posting. Instagram, unfollow, follow, we're doing it all. And, we'd be lucky to get a client every 3-4 weeks. And, even though we came to your workshop in February, for some reason we didn't implement this funnel until a couple of weeks ago. And it's obviously like, oh my God, we should have done this months ago. But that funnel, it sort of sells them before they even get on the phone with you. You've built credibility. You've showed them results. I mean, you went through your funnel in, one of your live things in the group, and you just sort of explained why it works. But it just works so well because they're pretty much sold before you get on the call. It's not – that's why I don't think cold calling works anymore. Some people might be able to do it, but one of my buddies was telling me he does cold calling for some accounting software. Huge company, raised $50 million, and he was their best cold caller. I said, how many people would you close? He's like, about, I'd be able to get one person a week to schedule a call with one of our salespeople. I know, and he was the best cold caller. So it's just cold calling doesn't work anymore because there's just so much noise out there. And, that's why funnels are so powerful, because they've seen the evidence, they've seen the results, they've spent 10, 15 minutes listening to you, they're already invested in, and it's just sort of, it's like, oh my God, I get to have a phone call with, Ryan, I get to have a phone call with Xavier. It's sort of, built their credibility. Yeah. So I think that funnel too that you're able to share with us has just really, really helped too.
And the questions that are asked on the funnel too, so it helps screen people who more likely than not are not going to take the time to answer the questions, and that sort of helps weed out the ones that may spin wheels and waste time on the phone with, Xavier or whoever you are out there that does the sales for your company.
Awesome. So you're not wasting time on on the phone with a tire kicker anymore, right? That's
but
huge.
just a note, the first few, I'm like, okay, I'll have a call with everyone, and someone put, I don't have the financial resources to invest in my business right now, and I closed her. So, just because she said she did, it's and that's sort of what I would do too. If I saw a survey, I'd be like, I don't want them to know I have money. They'll try. So, even though they said that, I'm like, let's have a call. So, it's sort of like a protective thing that they do, I think. If they're filling out the survey, they've got to have some interest. And unless they seem like a total tire kicker, I'll probably take the call.
For sure. Yeah. And I've got a free video in the group on the psychology behind the questions. There's no one single point of failure for the questions. It's more like you take all of the questions into consideration. So unless they really are just not trying,
right,
which happens. I mean, it's probably 10, 20%, but that's crucial because every person that you let into your psyche as the business owner and the salesperson, it affects you, right? So or it can. So okay, so let me recap real quick just for everybody because you guys covered a lot there, which I'm glad. But so there's three main buckets we cover at the workshop. Number one is our inbound client acquisition funnel, which you guys just sort of spoke about lastly there. We've got the lead nurturing system, right? And then we've got the sales training, right? So the scripting, the sales training, and what to say to acquire clients. So what was the net result of you guys after you went through all of those things at the workshop? And, I know that you guys, well, you closed one client at the workshop. That was awesome, by the way. But let's talk about what happened after you left, because that's probably more important, right? So the workshop ends, you guys go home. Tell us what the net effect was from learning those three main things on your business between then and now.
Sure, I can start on that one. So, I would say, first of all, with the lead nurturing stuff, that helped keep the clients that we were working with at the time. Because like I said, we were sort of in a position where they, again, they were sort of blaming us, blaming the leads and the follow-up process. So that helped us immediately kind of go back to them and say, hey, look, we now have a solution, for that problem. We obviously phrased it in a way where we weren't trying to blame them for everything. And we put that into place. And one thing we didn't really talk about, but I'm sure people in the group are aware, is that the database reactivation piece of the sort of the lead nurturing part of the training that you guys provide was huge, because for us now, when we onboard a client, we can get them results literally within 24 hours, and so we're pushing to set up the database reactivation stuff as quickly as possible. Because as you know, and people out there listening know, setting up the Facebook ads funnel, if you're pretty good at it, you can do it somewhat quickly. But if you're waiting on a video, and then, if you signed a few other clients and you have 4 funnels to build, that can take a little while. So that piece, honestly, we hadn't talked about it. I wanted to mention that because that's something that adds a ton of value to the service we provide, and also helps us implement and get results literally extremely quickly, because all you really need from them is their database, and then setting up the software and then kind of training them on it, which you can do in about 30 to 45 minutes. So that would be the first piece. And then the second piece, as Xavier touched on with the client acquisition funnel, we kind of dragged our feet a little bit for various reasons on getting that live, but it's literally as soon as we got it live, I want to say the first lead we got, we had spent $1.20. It was less than $2.
It was something ridiculous.
We were holy
shit.
It might have been less than $1 or something crazy.
And then we put this next morning, and then we've been with them for 2 weeks, and they've already made $20K from the database reactivation, so they're crushing it.
Yeah. So
the funnel's killer, and so that's. Obviously, I wish we did the funnel sooner, but we needed to get some other things right in the business. And it worked out that we had an employee starting the day we launched the funnel. So he's been able to see 4 funnels built in that time. So, he's actually building one as we. So it was good training for him to sort of get him started. So, Evan can focus more on some other sides of the business. And also, we partnered with one of the providers of the medical aesthetic machines. And they, obviously have practices that pay $150,000 for these machines. So the practice expects them to get customers for these machines, and they're working with us to generate them leads. We're going to do a pilot of missions, and, that's going to be killer too. So, easily by December, we're going to be, 100, 150K in, recurring revenue. And, I don't think we would be able to get there without the systems and processes in place. And, still we're leaning on you guys to sort of learn, how we go from here. What are the next steps? Now that we're at, a dozen clients. How do we get to, 25? How do we get to 50? How do we get 100 and beyond? So
how do we do that without sinking the business, by the way, right? Like,
right, yeah.
I'm good at sales. And that's why I was like, dude, let's turn the funnel off for a second, like, that's not a bad problem to have, right? So,
yeah.
We again, working with you guys and just having the systems and processes in place to be able to support that is huge, right? Because otherwise it sounds great for like a month or two and then just collapse, right? Like then problems happen and you can't fix them in time and the clients, will leave very quickly. So,
well, most people who do that, they go and start a course.
Right.
They're like, I'm an expert. This is hard. I'm an expert. I'm going to go start a course. So, I mean, that's just the state of the union, right? All right. One final question, guys. And thank you for all that. That was awesome. What is the one thing you would tell somebody who's on the fence about going to an implementation workshop event with us? So let's say they're sort of like, I'm not sure I should go or not. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff like this. I mean, what was the one thing that you would say to them if they were on the fence still?
I would say if you're serious about your business and you're in this space, whatever niche you're in, like run as quickly as you can down to San Diego. And I'm obviously I love you, Rob, and but I really, really, really mean that because, like you said, people who start courses don't necessarily haven't done what they are teaching, right? But it speaks for yourself. Like I don't have to sit here and say all the numbers, that you've done since you started your business, but really even in like the last 6 months, you guys have just completely gone to the next level. And that's something that we aspire to do ourselves. So I think the fastest way to do that is to learn from someone who's actually done it and is still doing it. So again, if you're serious about your business and you want to, do 30K a month, 50K a month, if you have aspirations to do 100K a month plus, like you've well surpassed that by now. And you got to learn from, the people in the businesses who have been there and done that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Evan touched on it a lot, but it's like who else out there has a program, a course that's actually doing it? Like Billy Jean was doing it and he's not even doing it anymore. And there's also 500 people in the School of Genius, thousands in the gene pool, whatever. So you're competing with all them. But how many are actually going to, the alchemy course, right? You might have 300 people in Robb and Ryan's secret group, but only a handful of them are actually going to take the leap and do this. And, to have this knowledge, you can just quickly become a leader in your space. And right now it is sort of a land grab, right? Like the people, not just the Facebook agencies, because Robb's course is much more than that, but the people creating these digital marketing agencies now, over the next 5 years, the one who gets the clients, the ones who gets them the results, they're going to be the ones that are going to last for the next 20, 30 years. Whether they're still running the business or they've hired people, those ones are going to be the ones. So I think in 5 years, to start a customer acquisition agency is going to be very difficult, very difficult. So I think right now is the time to do it, and you've got to make the investment today so you can, enjoy and be an alcoholic on an island later.
I agree, man. And I think that, a lot of people out there are really confused about what it takes to be successful. And I can tell you it's really simple. You need to acquire clients and you need to get your clients results. That is it. Once you get to a certain point, you have to get good at building a team.
Yeah.
That is literally the game. And the way that you do it nowadays is systems and processes to lock in the profitability and all that stuff. But it is not more complicated than that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff flying out there. It's just like, it's like being at a concert and standing next to the big speaker. I grew up, I'm giving away my age now, but when I was growing up, seeing Guns N' Roses at a stadium concert was like the life-changing experience. It's like standing next to a speaker as big as a house at a Guns N' Roses concert being like, what? I can't hear you. Like, that's what it's like right now, When really what you should be looking for is like the acoustic session afterwards at the after party where there's an acoustic guitar and just one voice. That, I mean, you mentioned Billie Jean. I've had 2 mentors that have helped me like get to where I am. And like I before I was listening to every voice or no voices is really important to me. Like if you guys hadn't found Success or Our program, I would have been like, dude, find the person that is right for you, right? And I truly believe this in my heart of hearts. I might not be the right fit for everybody watching this, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The only reason I do this stuff, because like it's not for the money, I can tell you that. The only reason I do this stuff is because I actually don't think that I could have done it without my two mentors, right? And when you guys approached us and we said, yeah, we think we could, put something together like that for you, that was the main motivation, because it takes a lot to stop and, stop for 2 days, 3 days for us to just be like, I'm out, and away from my family too and stuff. And I know you guys, you feel the same way. If you're going to do it, it's got to be for a good reason, right? So to me, when I offer this, it's very, very much a selection process, if you will, from both sides. But I think that's important, because if what you guys came to me and said very specifically, Rob, I want this. And I said, well, I've done that and I know I can help you with that. I think a lot of people out there are like, I just need to make money. But we talked about a lot of other things too, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be successful, but you also care about your clients' results, and you want for the process to be to where you're not running around with it like a chicken with your head cut off. Like, you don't want the same stress level that you used to have. You don't want, like that kind of stuff is important to you, which is what I share as well. So it's more than one thing, right? But when you go to an event, especially like to me, the gut has to feel right. I said this to someone else who signed up. I won't mention his name because I haven't asked him permission, but he's like, Rob, I feel good about this, but I just have a few more questions. And I'm like, well, I'm happy to answer your questions, but what does your gut say? And that's kind of what, and he said, I feel good about it, by the way. And I said, great, then let's get you signed up. But that was kind of the same thing that you guys felt was like, hey, I think we could really do well with this, not because of all of the tactics, those are there too, but because we want this, And so, I mean, maybe you could just shed, as a final thing to wrap this up, do you guys still feel like that's the case after being in the program for, what has it been, 5 months, 6 months?
No, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, we're still, want to pay you for more consulting, right? We did all that stuff, and then, right now we're like, okay, we've got into, a much higher level, but now let's take it to here, and then let's keep going and going. Like, we don't think we've stopped learning from you, and we've done, we learned so much, and I just know there's still so much more. And I'm sure since February you've learned a ton more, right? You've taken your business from 100K a month to 400K. That's not a small jump. And I remember when we went there, you said when you're doing 100K, you're like, I think we can get to 500K a month with only 1 or 2 more employees. I'm like, I don't know if this guy's smoking crack or what, but I mean, and 4 months later, 5 months later, you're there. It's shocking. So, I mean, again, there's even if someone else had a course like you that's doing it, I don't know any other agency apart from the big guys on Madison Avenue doing the revenue that you're doing, and no one in local small businesses, right? No one's there. So, I mean, if you want to be up with the best, you got to learn from the best. And, I mean, there's just, we still lean on you for advice, right? Like, we have this issue with a client. How do we deal with this? They want it. And, I mean, a lot of the things is something, sometimes we know it, and it's just hearing you say it also just helps, right? Like, sure. And a lot of the times it's just like, what the fuck would Rob do? And then we know the answer, and then we just do that. Like, Evan and me say that at least 2-3 times a week. What would Rob do? And then we just do whatever we think you would.
And just how much, you're the king, you kind of touched on it, but simplification. Like, I think people in this space, really just in life actually, like just try to overcome, and I'm definitely guilty of it, right? Like, I think probably everyone watching this is like, yeah, me too. But, you've just found a way to simplify things and cut out as many variables as possible and focus on the ones that work and take the least amount of time to get them to work, right? And like that, to me, is the secret sauce, because if you can do that, then you can scale, So
yeah. I love it, man. All right, look, I could talk for days about this stuff with you guys, that.
Likewise.
But we went at least twice as long as we planned to. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time and let you get back to work. I know you've got a ton to do, and you got a bunch of new clients to serve, and you got more on the way, etc. So thanks, guys. And
thank you.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, I would encourage those people to not just hit them up personally because they've got a business to run and families and all that good stuff, but just post a question in the Facebook group and tag them, because these guys are in our Facebook group. So
yeah, absolutely. Any questions, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, and that way everybody can learn from the questions and answers there, and that will save you guys time. So
beautiful.
Really appreciate you guys. And if I may, I I am so proud of you guys for executing on all this stuff, because the second that Xavier closed that client at our workshop, I was like, these guys are going to crush it. I mean, I believed that before, but when I saw you execute on it that quickly, I was just like, these guys are going to run with this. And you guys have. I think you guys could have grown quicker if you cared less about the results, but you also care about that too. I think it's the right way. And so it's similar to us. I think one day it's just going to pop, and you guys are just going to be off because you're building the foundations right. And to me, that's what I'm passionate about. So I just want to applaud you guys and tell you you're on the right track and you're crushing it.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Well, we always appreciate it. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, no worries. All right, fellas. Well, I will sign off here, and thank you again, and we'll see you in the group there.
See you
Awesome.
All right, have a good rest of your Monday. See you guys.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Later.